Everyone, this is WobblyWallaby. The new Taekwon class is out on the China beta test server. Today I'll be doing a detailed review of the Taekwon skills. I'll evaluate how good these skills are from a PvE and PvP perspective. This is a fun class with lots of powerful skills, so stay tuned to learn more. This video will be split into two parts. In part 1, I'll cover the Taekwon and Star Emperor skills. In part 2, I'll cover the Apocalypse and Aesir Monument skills. A huge thank you to Team Leaks for translating the skills. Yulp had posted a link that I'll put in the description. There's more details regarding the skills that I won't be covering in this video, so you should definitely check it out. From the Ragnarok Mobile unofficial community Discord channel, thanks to Jin, Heikakiri, and Volkova Qualified, who also helped me with some of the mechanics and my questions. Also thanks to my wife Fiery Fairy, who also helped with some of the translation questions I had as well. First are Taekwon skills. For all these skills in this section and in other sections, I'll invest the maximum skill points into it. I also use Fate Wheel to see if any skill cooldowns can be decreased. This is because Fate Wheel gives minus 10% skill cooldown. Here are the Taekwon skills that I'll be covering. There are 12 skills. First is Peaceful Rest. It can give heal for 10% HP while sitting. The sitting down mechanic is new to me, and I'm not a huge fan of it. For example, you can be hit out of it, as you can see with the Fantastic Dragon doing this to me. Only when I'm not interrupted can I stay seated and reap the benefits. For HP recovery, I'd say this isn't great, and I'd rather be using other ways to heal. I think this is a bad skill. Next is Happy Rest, which can recover 10% SP to you and your teammates. This one has the Aesir Monument to let you keep recovery SP even when you're not sitting. I'd say this one is better, and recovering SP is a nice thing, especially for party members. Not needing to stay seated is also a huge benefit for this one. I think this is a good skill for PvE and PvP. Here I show that I lost some SP from Oracle Dungeon. When I sit, you can see its effect being activated and a big chunk of SP gets recovered over time. Next is Come On. Your auto attack power can go up by 300 for each party member. I say this is a great skill for both PvE and PvP, where you'd ideally have a full party. Next is Sprint. You can move 30% faster for 600 seconds, but it stops once you cast another skill. The Aesir Monument also helps lower the cooldown and damage, which makes it very good. Having a temporary boost of speed is great for PvE and PvP. This is great for MVP hunting since being as fast as possible is ideal. Here I show I have 163% move speed. I cast Sprint. Now I have 193% move speed. Once I cast a skill, I'll lose my move speed. And I show I have 163% move speed again. Next is High Jump. You can jump up to 9 meters in a circle. This beats other classes that may have less range or flexibility. Some classes can only jump where they're facing. The Aesir Monument grants a 2-second stun and lowers fixed cast time. Being able to land and stunning someone is great for PvP. 2 seconds is also a lot. For PvE, bosses can't be stunned, so its use is not that effective. When you land, there's also some recovery time, so it's not as if you can use this to land right in front of the MVPs and kill it right away. It's actually probably better to just run to it. Here I jump and stun the first seals, then hit it with the roundhouse kick. Next is Warm Wind, which lets you convert to various element types. The Soulbinder class also has this skill, and I use that one for the translation. This skill is amazing. Being able to convert for free and to use Holy, Shadow, and Ghost, which you can't buy converters for, makes it very strong. This lets you very easily double damage your targets. The Aesir monument also lets you do extra damage for certain element types. Here I cast Warm Wind into Earth and hit the first seals for 3 million. Then I use Warm Wind to convert to Wind. I hit the first seals for 5.8 million now. Next is Flying Kick, which lets you fly at your target, dealing 1040% attack. The Aesir monument gives you more damage and movement speed after. The 5 meter range can also be really good. You also get more damage based on your movement speed. I think this is a great skill for PvP and PvE. I think this is really good for MVP hunting, especially for weaker MVPs, since you can one-shot this with this skill and have a 5 meter range. It also looks super dramatic to fly through the air and kick the boss in the face. Next is Fall. This passive skill gives you 50 flee, 20% chance to ignore ranged physical damage, and 20% chance to ignore magic damage. The Aesir monument also gives you 15 agi and HP recovery on a dodge. I think this passive is amazing for both PvP and PvE. Being able to dodge these attacks just seems really broken to me. Next is Roundhouse Kick. You can deal 1380% attack to enemies within 3 meters. Your movement speed over 150% also gives you more damage, and you can reduce your enemy's defense by 350. If you're not doing auto attack, I would consider this skill only good for PvE and PvP. I find there are better kicks later on. For the auto attack build, I think this is great, and I'll discuss this more later. Here I use a Roundhouse Kick against dummies with different strengths. Next is Roundhouse Stance. Taekwons have different stances, and this can cause you to use a skill when auto attacking. For example, you have a 15% chance to proc the Roundhouse Kick in between your auto attack interval. Here I select the Roundhouse Stance. Then I auto attack. The Roundhouse procs and I hit the dummies. If you're an auto attacker, this skill is great because there's a chance for you to splash weaker mobs when doing PvE instances such as monsters in Oracle Nightmare. Next is Heal Drop. This gives you 1820% physical damage to a single target and 100% chance to stun for 3 seconds. For PvP, I think this is a great skill, especially if your opponent lacks stun resistance. 3 seconds is also a really long time. And then if you hit them again, you're doing 49% more damage due to the Aesir monument. For PvE, if you're an auto attacker, this is a great skill. It gives you more damage when doing auto attack. If you're just using this skill, I find it's only good. You can't stun bosses and there are more powerful skills later on. Here I use Heal Drop on various dummy strengths. Next is Heal Drop Stance. If you're an auto attacker, you have a 15% chance to cast Heal Drop in between the auto attack interval. This is great for the auto attack build. Here I check off the Heal Drop Stance. Then auto attack the dummy. The 11.4 million damage comes from the Heal Drop, so it's quite nice to have it proc during an auto attack. There are some stances that can coexist with each other. Both Roundhouse and Heal Kick stances can exist with each other, and when you auto attack there's a chance for you to see it being procced. Here I'm using the auto attack and first the Heal Drop happens. Then after the Roundhouse Kick happens. There is a third line S ruin that will remove this animation, but I'll discuss that in a future video. Without the ruin, it's easier to see the animation. Next are the Star Emperor skills. Here are the Star Emperor skills that I'll be covering. There are 11 skills plus Force Focus. Force Focus is a skill that every class has. Similar to before, when I discuss these skills, I'll put the maximum skill points into it, and also use the Fate Wheel. First is Hatred of the Sun. This allows you to specify a target like a monster or a boss. If it's in PvP, then it'll be a particular class. For example, if the enemy is a Stellar Hunter, then it'll affect all Stellar Hunters. This also cannot exist with Hatred of the Moon. By itself, this skill can be confusing. It has to go along with the passive to make sense. Once it does, this is an amazing skill for both PvE and PvP. Next is Anger of the Sun, which is the passive for Hatred of the Sun. This lets you do 50% more damage to the marked target. The Aesir Monument also lets you reduce the max HP. For PvP and PvE, doing 50% more damage is fantastic, which is why this and the Hatred of the Sun are both amazing. This is a must-have, and it's pretty busted. Here I hit the APOC Golden Thief bug for 645,000. Then I cast Hatred of the Sun on it, and I do 1.2 million. This is also good for legend level difficulty, where the bosses will be lasting for quite a while, so being able to do more damage to it is quite beneficial. Next is Hatred of the Moon. This allows you to specify a target like a monster or a boss. If it's in PvP, then it'll let you choose a particular class. For example, if the enemy is a Novice Guardian, then it'll affect all Novice Guardians. This also cannot exist with the Hatred of the Sun. Again, this can be confusing if you don't know about the passive. Next is the Anger of the Moon, the passive to Hatred of the Moon. This lets you take 30% less damage from the marked target. You can also reduce the enemy's attack by 500 and stacks 3 times with the Aesir Monument. This is amazing for PvP and PvE. Reducing the enemy's attack by 500 is also a huge debuff. Here I fight the Sea Spirit Totem. I stay back and I get hit for about 30,000 per hit. He hits me with the AoE circle and I die because I take 550,000 damage. Next I cast the Hatred of the Moon on it and then I skip ahead a bit. I get hit for about 24,000 damage this time. Also, when he puts the mark on me, the AoE hits me for 381,000 instead of 550,000. So the damage is reduced, which is great against bosses, especially legend level ones. Next is Comfort of the Sun and Moon. On odd days, it gives you a 12-second immunity to physical damage. On even days, it gives you 12 seconds immunity to magic damage. The Aesir Monument gives you reduced cast delay by 1 second. This is seriously busted. Having 12 seconds of immunity is way too long. Also, having a skill that's dependent on the day also makes this more interesting. There are definitely days where you want the physical damage immunity so you can deal with certain bosses. Here I'll be using the skill against the Magma Golem. The Magma Golem is taking chunks off of me, and when I cast Comfort of the Sun and Moon, I take no more damage. Next is Cosmic Fusion. This is a stance. Against players it does 2% HP drain, and against monsters it does 30% more damage. However, if your HP is below 20%, you'll die. This is a big trade-off, so I'd say this skill is only good, but not great. Dying at 20% is the most annoying part of this. Also, if you revive with less than 20% HP, you'll keep dying over and over again until you turn off this skill. After I die to the mini, I go back to town and I keep dying every time I revive. And this will keep going until I stop it. I turn off the stance and now my endless suicide is over. If you're planning to one-shot things and not get hurt too much, then this skill would be good since the extra damage is nice. However, I wouldn't recommend this against tougher bosses. Here I use the Roundhouse Kick against the first seal for 4.9 million damage. Then I enable Cosmic Fusion. Now my Roundhouse Kick does 6.4 million damage. Next is Flash Kick. It can hit 2150% physical damage and hits up to 6 targets. Each flash jump does an extra 15% damage, similar to how Arcane Master's Chain Lightning jumps to do more damage each time. I think this skill is great for both PvE and PvP because of the high damage and its AoE effect. Here I'm hitting a first seal with it. It's a bit too slow to farm efficiently, but this may be the best skill we have for now. Next is the Flash Stance, which also gives you 15% chance to cast Flash Kick. This is amazing for auto attackers for both PvE and PvP. When it procs, it's another great AoE to control mobs. I enabled the stance, and too bad it's only a 15% proc rate, otherwise this would be really good for farming. Here I'm hitting the first seals, and once in a while you'll see the Flash Kick happen. Next is Nova Explosion. This is an amazing skill because it has great multipliers. It's for 2920% in an area and also causes HP loss based on luck and critical damage. This is great for PvE and PvP. The Aesir Monument also gives you 80% chance to burn and 20% more damage. This also has one of the best animations. I love the stars smashing into the ground. Here the star is smashing the dummies of different strengths. It definitely looks very flashy. Next is the Nova Stance, which gives you a 15% chance to proc Nova Explosion. For auto attack builds, this skill is amazing for PvE and PvP. I activate the stance, then the auto attack procs the Nova Explosion. Lastly is Warmth of the Star. This slowly drains your SP and deals 1320% physical damage to enemies within 3 meters for 10 seconds. The Aesir Monument gives you more damage and defense. I'd say this skill is good. It damages enemies every second, but at the cost of your own SP. Also find the duration to be kinda short, and it's harder to time this unless the target is standing still. That's it for now. I hope you enjoyed learning about these skills, and I'll see you in part 2 of this video series. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe.